Edit out any of this horse shit that you got.
Bink, and we're back.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Basement Blokes podcast. As you can see, we have a missing member of the crew today. He's off overseas, taking the fight to COVID. We'll let you know how that goes, and he'll be able to tell us some personal stories. I think he's in the Virgin Islands fighting it there. Don't know why he picked there, but you know,
He's doing his greatest life.
you know, he's safe. He's working for us, so I'm not gonna criticize him.
I love him.
But
he's having a great time.
How have you been?
Kind of feel like you live in a parody world of what you grew up in.
I mean, yeah. Or you know, it's like it's been a play, and then the play's over, and then you go up to the guy who you swore, it's like, I swear you were like a real like bear up there. And it's like, no, I'm just a guy.
Just be out here.
That's every person in the history book, you know, from that we learned in history class. It's just like, no, that's just a character, man. I'm a different dude.
I think it's a weird time just for the human brain. Just like, I don't think ever there was, you know, throughout history there's been crazy times, crazy years, but I don't think there's ever been like on this large of a scale.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's I don't know if our brain can comprehend global pandemic.
No.
I don't think, you know,
no,
like
I don't think so.
When we only can see our really village mentality.
Yeah, I think it's something where we're trying to find the answers, and unfortunately, since it's not something that in theory has an answer, not right now at least, we'll make them up. I think that's why certain videos like the Plandemic and the one from the Witch Doctor,
Flat Earth.
Yeah,
there's Flat Earth too out there, so videos just get people.
I think that's I think when it's like, I think that's why we love, or like a lot of people I think gravitate towards those kind of videos, is because it's like, listen, we have the cure, we have the magic, whatever. So don't worry about it. You're not going to die from it because they already have the cure. Mm-hmm. And like this and that, versus like, well, no, we don't. We're still researching things. So unfortunately, yes, you are still in danger. And I think then a lot of people are like, no, I guess disturbance in the force. Or a squirrel outside, one of the two.
Either or.
But I think that's why I think a lot of people are like, no. I like conspiracy theory more, and especially when it comes to cures versus, well, I don't. It's like, well,
they don't want. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the fact, like, oh, you watch
terrifying.
You watch a movie like Braveheart or something where it's like, man, hell yeah, William Morris killed it, dude.
Yeah.
Screw the UK, screw the English, and all this stuff. And it's like he was a god among men. It's like, well, not necessarily.
Yeah.
he was good, but I mean, he wasn't like he
was good at his people.
He wasn't Kratos against the English.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, no man could stop him. He was straight up V for Vendetta. It's like, well, not necessarily. And I think that's it. It's like we kind of like the fiction more, because I don't know.
Well,
it feels
for
safer.
All storytelling. So if you go to Spartacus, and in one of the historical writings of that time, we're gone through playwright. So like if you go back to Odyssey, it was told by Homer, which is like there was really no distinction between fact and fiction. It was all story.
Yeah.
Based, and it was, so that's where I feel like our storytelling comes from. So we want to believe that supernatural. We don't want to believe that like life is so in this small.
Just Well, yeah. Again, like you'll go
bubble.
Like telling us. I mean, like, which again, I think even just like overhyping, like some dude coming home from like a night of presumably some action,
debauchery.
Of debauchery, of sin, was
we don't sin in this podcast.
Actually, just very.
This is a no sin podcast.
Yeah. We don't.
Anti-sin.
I do not support any sinful activity.
None.
But like that's why I think even that taps into just the old days of like, okay, well, it's like, oh well, yeah, I mean, the Odyssey, like this guy went from here and then he went over there, and it's like, in the heart of a storm. In the heart of a storm, he looked Poseidon in the eyes.
Ooh, so when are we gonna start doing voiceovers and get paid for this shit? That was beautiful.
I'd like to, submit my demo reel. But that's the difference. It's like, so there I was. I set the mood. I grabbed her favorite drink without even needing to ask her. There she was. She was wooed. Like it's something where just immediately you're just kind of invested. Back then, people weren't like, so did that happen?
Well, I think what we're running into is I'm reading this book. It's called Millennium, and it's wisdom through tribal wisdom through. But this guy wrote a book through a PBS like miniseries. But it came with a book and attached, and it was like kind of breaking down, comparing the other to society. So people that, but basically it broke down to is back then, someone would go out, travel, come back. No one in that village went back. So if he's seen a bear, he would describe it as a monster. You come back to your village, describe that monster. No one else has seen a bear in your village, right? And so you go out there, so you believe there's monsters out there because there was no fact checking. Whereas now we live in this global world that everybody can talk to everybody. So someone's like, I seen this monster, but you've seen a bear. You know what I mean?
Dude, I got the Target security feed. That was not. That was nothing. That's
what I'm saying. So like we can't get away with these grandeur videos, and now it's like we're resetting how we deal with this as humans.
Yeah.
Like we're seeing like an evolution. Like people think evolution is only physical, but it's also like a very mental thing of like there was a time when humans didn't have language. There was a time when humans didn't have society. We've had to evolve those mentally. And we're kind of getting to like our mental evolution is trying to catch up with these times, but like stuff is moving so quickly. It's so tough. It's so tough.
We can't afford to buy into the fiction because especially during these times when, because I mean even back in the day when people would sell a story or sell that everything outside the walls is dangerous. So if you want your life to continue, you for no reason will you leave like the village because like, oh, there are monsters around the walls. It's like the movie The Village.
All right, what about the Croods? You ever watch that one?
The what?
The Croods? The
oh,
people?
Yeah, I know the one.
Yeah.
That's what it makes me think of is like, because specifically in The Village, the whole thing is like, hey, listen, this is an old timey town where it's like, oh yeah, like what's again this town is surrounded by monsters, and then be like, oh, they'd ring a bell when it's like, oh, I see one and it's coming, and I mean, it's a consistent thing. They don't. God damn it. Yeah, munch on some ice. But it would be the whole thing where it's like, all right, and stay in your house and this and that, and then you find out, and someone pointed this out to me. I'm always spoiling movies in this. Anyway, gonna spoil The Village now. It came out 16 years ago.
You're already moving too slow here. Come on now.
But it turns out that the heads of the town dress up in these monster garb costumes so that to spook them, to scare
to keep them from leaving,
to keep them from ever leaving, because it's like, oh, listen, this is the only safe place you could ever be in your life, because as soon as you leave,
that's fucked up.
Like, but that was what it was. They would dress up themselves to make sure to sell the lie, which then you find out that like one of the residents goes far enough outside of the town bounds that you find out also it's not colonial America, it's modern day. But again, it was just about selling this kind of illusion, selling this town as just like an escape from the real world. That, like that, again, as far as they knew, it wasn't that they were being negligent. It's not like that they were being willfully ignorant. It was just that, I was never given any reason to think that society was different in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling a lot of people are going with that. It's not that we we can't even believe that Ulysses, took down a Cyclops and this and that. It's like, listen, we can't afford to.
Yeah.
Because if we believe that, then it's like, oh, then we have... It's like, oh, I believe a cure is coming, next month. It's like, who told you? This guy, in a very convincing manner. It's like, well, I can't... Some people can't afford to believe that. They need to know, okay, is one coming or not?
That's the hydrochloroquine video is scary because it's like there was no lead up. Like, I just feel like the genuineness of that video, if that's not how they would reveal that. Like, even if there was a conspiracy against, like, the main media didn't want to see it, there weren't going to be 9 people in lab coats on Capitol Hill. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
It wouldn't be that way.
It's not going to be some 720p 9-minute video about how, like, hey, listen, they've already got the cure. So, like, don't worry. Go outside. Go to the bar. You're fine. They already have the cure. And they'll dish it out, like...
My problem with that whole situation, though, is I would rather have that video just blasted out there rather than taken away. Because to me, it's always been, like, the people who say you can't say that are more dangerous to you than the people saying stupid shit. Like, if people are saying stupid shit, let them. But it's like, I understand that, like, what she's saying, others can agree with and find, and then support, and then that could be dangerous for the thing, the entirety. But I think it's more dangerous to just completely erase that video and act like it didn't happen. Because now you feed into the conspiracy. Whereas if you just let it have it out there and you have a conversation of, no, this is not right, I think that would be more effective than just removing the video.
No, yeah. I think, and that's the problem, too, with a lot of conspiracy theories, is the second things are taken down and things like that, it's almost like, oh my god, it is more legitimate because it's taken down. But at the same time, it's like, well, when it deals with people's health, because obviously if someone's like, listen, I have, even though there are 22 different conspiracy theories on how JFK was killed and why, it's like, I have a 23rd one. That doesn't pose a threat to anyone. Like, if you're like, hold on, this guy's speaking too many facts. It's like for a thing that happened 60 years ago. So, like, that's different from, say, like, because it's like, oh, well, it's like conspiracy theory content isn't going to just be taken down for no reason, for just because it's like, why do you think in this, in this old movie there appears to be a guy using a cell phone? It's 1940. What is going on there? That's just like good fun.
Yeah.
Versus like, hey, take this drug that clearly means nothing to a normal person.
Yeah.
And you will be cured of COVID and you'll never have to worry about it.
That's what I'm saying. She came at when she came at the mask, she was like, you don't need a mask, you don't need all that, and it's like, now it feels like there was a gender related to this message. It wasn't about hydrochloroquine or whatever, however you say it. I'm sorry if I butchered it, but
I think it's hydroxychloroquine, and it's because I said that to 2 science roommates, to people in the science field, and they did not correct me. So
hey, that's a win.
So I'm counting on that being correct.
I love that. It felt agenda driven. That's where Neil deGrasse Tyson had an all-time tweet, and I wish I fucking remembered it word for word, but I'm gonna try my best to paraphrase it. It was instead of crying foul at brainwashing, why not educate yourself to be immune to such brainwashing? So it's like where we show this video, and instead of crying foul of this woman's saying falsities, truths, and I understand there's a danger of her spreading that information. But there's also a danger on the other side of controlling that information. And what the fuck just happened? God damn it, Torrent.
I'm not gonna comment on Andrew torrenting.
Victimless crime.
While you're editing this, Andrew, support films.
It's fucked up, Andrew.
Support them if they deserve it, which they do usually. But I mean, I don't know. I think there.
You hear what I'm trying to say a little bit? Like,
I understand.
I fully understand that, like, what she's saying could be harmful, but I also feel like both sides are harmful of how we treat it. If we just get rid of it, so if we're gonna talk about the 2 harms, we're gonna bring up the lesser evil. If we're gonna bring up the lesser evil, I think the lesser evil is to allow that video to be shown and just have a conversation about why it is wrong.
Ironically, it's in some cases. With these sort of things where, again, it's very dangerous narratives, ironically, the more you stifle it, sometimes the louder it is.
Yes.
And it's such a double-edged sword, because on one hand, I fully agree. Yes,
you don't want to spread misinformation.
Make yourself immune as possible to just believing, oh, there is a magic cure, or there's a magic explanation for why, 150,000 people died, and it's just like, no, it's because of the government. It's like, well, yes, but also it's like, well, there's no tell-all. There's no thing we can really. It's like outside of negligence. It's like, well, we also just don't have the cure to it. Other countries obviously found a way to stifle it in a way that's effective, but if we don't have a cure, we don't have a cure.
So bringing at the context, so I've kind of been thinking about so we started a podcast. We really went out and did it, right? And that's another thing of how many people have their own fucking podcast. But I feel like we kind of take it seriously. We have fun with it also, but it's so what's the I wouldn't consider us members of the media, but if we're in content media, there's a very small beginning entry stages of it.
We're
but what's the responsibility of media and people who produce content? What is the responsibility of them to talk about current events, and because you can still have a fun do nothing podcast, or not do nothing, but it's an
escape.
Talk shit.
There are escape podcasts that focus on just kind of, really any topics that you could say are unimportant technically. Certain things art, entertainment, things like that aren't unimportant, but things to me, the media's job is to inform. Keep people informed, which is why when a media member is flawed or biased or things like that, that's when it becomes a massive problem. Because even journalists can't really be biased. They can't afford to be, because your job is to be a credible, believable source who's not going to let personal biases.
So what's it called when you are not? So there's different terms. There's the non-biased news that you should, if you're doing news and current events, and there should be a non-biased. But there's also a point. Tabloids, or there's certain things where you can do the same thing but with your own opinion. So what is that called?
I guess blogger.
Yeah,
like a blogger. You can write a personal blog, obviously, and when I say personal blog, some of them are read by millions. So that's not to make it seem smaller than they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, personal blogs, and even Twitter in its own way for a lot of people is a personal blog, because it can be something where it's like, oh yes, for my job I interview actors and entertainers and authors and things like that. But then on Twitter I can be like, yo, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Because or oh, this guy said this, the guy I just interviewed, or it's like, man, this movie's a hunk of shit.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not your job to, in the middle of the interview, did you set out to write a book that is bad?
Yeah.
That's then you're not being good. Well, and also no one's gonna come back.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like, wait, who's interviewing
Eric Andre
me?
type shit.
Oh, them. Yeah. It's like Eric Andre. It's even to a level you're like, I roughly know what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
I am here to plug something, but I understand it's not a normal interview.
Some type of disclaimer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In terms of context,
when you're going on Eric Andre, it's your fault.
Yeah.
If you don't
contextual
know,
disclaimer.
You don't know what you don't know what you're getting into. But yeah, I think that's the difference. And then Twitter and things again, it's Twitter's such another double-edged sword, because it's something where a lot of people discredit themselves, because it's something where they're talking about, hey, you rely on this person to essentially, the news and media in theory isn't a person, because a person has flaws, a person has biases, they can spin things differently. A person would make that decision. In theory, the facts shouldn't be spun, they should just be stated. So I think that's
you can correlate that to anything, man, of science is not
Yeah.
human, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
science,
going in that
yeah.
context, but it's
Science
like
isn't an opinion.
this is where
Yeah.
like I fully trust in science, as you should,
Mhm.
right? But I also have an understanding that science comes from men, not men in terms of like,
Humans.
humans. Science comes from humans, and it's you got to understand that humans are flawed. So it's like whenever you take in information, there is a double responsibility on the giver and the receiver. So it's like it is. I feel like when you are trying to give news, it is your responsibility to you do your best to give the cleanest, most unobjective perspective you can give. And yet, on the other side, when you're receiving, you still have to understand, even though that person might have done their best, they're still human.
Mhm.
And it's like, so you have to have your own filter yourself. So it's
Right.
like it's a two-sided responsibility where too often we put the entire responsibility on the media, or we put the entire responsibility on the consumer, and I think
Yeah.
we have to like get to a balance of we're each doing our job in this exchange.
Oh yeah, it's like the media member did the work to either get the story or do their own analysis that led to a full-fledged article, and it's your job to click on the article and actually read it to make sure that it's not just the headline, it's not just, like someone said, I hate blank.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, what? Hang on. What's like, what do you mean by that? It's like, whoa. Like, how could he say that? Then you click on it, and it's like, in this, or like in this movie, I play someone that hates.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, wait, oh, okay. It's like, and. Or, I mean, again, like, I guess it taps into context as well. Sometimes headlines decontext, I'm sure there's a better word for that, but decontextualize different quotes to, I think, get a response. Because most headlines, if you were just very matter of fact, this is what it is, you're probably not gonna have a response unless it's something like an immediate emotional response, unless it's like literally any legislation Donald Trump tries to put into effect. It's
Does he
usually
put anything into effect, or does he just take them out?
Oh no! Again, yeah, he's like, all right, cross that off.
Which I'm kind of a fan of at some point. But
Send it to the Congress, send it to the Congress floor. It's like you can't just cross off laws. My amendment is to scratch it out. It's like, well, no. Like in the past, it would be like, I mean, most most presidents who are doing like something small, like you're not going to be like outlaws public nudity. It's like, all right.
Yeah,
It's like versus like an Alex Jones, like, you can't be naked in public anymore. It's like, well,
what are we really mad about?
Hang on, I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm allowed to be naked wherever. God damn it! I'll show them. Yeah, it's like okay,
psychology.
well, it's like, oh yeah, it's like, well, okay, well, I mean, that seems pretty, that seems pretty reasonable. You shouldn't be naked in public. That's fair. But I mean, I think, again, it's up to the news outlets and things like that to decide, all right, here's the story, here are the facts, and it's your job to take that and run with it. And then I guess the rest is up to the discretion of the journalist and or their editor. And I think a lot, I mean, again, the whole problem with the current administration is that due to the fact that facts about what he's done are very unflattering, he attacks facts and states that they are not facts. So,
Simple.
which is very simple. Yeah, it's like, listen, word is getting around that I'm very unreliable. Therefore, I need to convince people that everyone else is unreliable.
Mudslinging. I mean, that was like that's been the lifeblood of politics.
Oh yeah, it's like
Since
my
we learned about
candidate.
it, yeah.
Attacks on character. Like this candidate is soft on bad things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
what
like,
are you on? Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Whereas I am hard.
That's why I loved this is why I don't know if I would have voted for Andrew Yang. I don't know, but it was refreshing to hear a politician who talked about issues, not only highlighted issues, because I feel like too often we hear politicians who just highlight issues, like this is something that's wrong, and we're like, yeah, and then they're like, all right, this is something else that's wrong. Wait, how are you gonna fix that thing though? Like, you brought it up, it's a good thing, but like Andrew Yang brought up thing, and then he had his own idea of how he was gonna solve that. That was refreshing to me. I love that. But I just want to say, okay, can we fawn over AOC real quick?
No, yes.
I want to do this.
I'd love to.
Like 2 minutes, 5-minute segments.
I'd love to fawn.
Okay, so if I give a little background to myself of why I love this woman, I work at a drinking establishment, and
a tavern.
If you
a tavern of sorts.
If you describe my job badly, I give rotten fruit and veggie juice to adults and babysit them. But there was this old man came in, and he was kind of like, one of the things you kind of when you talk about it at the bar, you got to be careful how you do it. Religion and politics. And he was bringing up, he was this old head, like 60, and he was trying to give me advice about relationships. And he says, and he kind of brought it into politics of like, our country is at the struggle we are because it was not made with a woman in mind. Whereas, and he brought this up and I understand how like people are fearful of gender roles and how confining they can be, and this is not an overarching thing of this is what I believe in, but I'm just gonna reiterate what he said. He just said that in your relationship, you are supposed to you run the relationship as a man. As a woman, she runs the household. And he said ideally, if we wanted to have a country ran with human and ethics, and there's no better than the divine woman to run such a thing. And then on my own part, I know that people who've worked in the service industry and bartending, retail, anything, they have this. Anthony Bourdain had a great, I don't know if that was him or just a Facebook meme, like post, you know what I mean? But it was basically like, there's an empathy, and I've learned more in kitchens and bars than I have in school and universities. So I'm like, man, we can get a woman who's worked in the service industry. She'd be the greatest, fucking politician, president of all time.
Well.
We have one! We got one!
We have her.
We have one!
Well, no.
And like, she's a strong woman, too.
And she's constantly doing something. She's doing like an Instagram live where she's just like, here's some of the bullshit I experienced today.
Daily.
But then
she shows the process.
But then she raised $50,000 to undocumented people who like don't have that money, and it's just like, what? I
just love how like, I know she is. Whenever you are doing something for yourself, like not for yourself, but you're doing something with great motivations, great I don't know what I'm trying to say, but whenever you're doing something with great intentions and you're making great moves, things, the opposition's gonna move that much harder, and the opposition against her, it's like it's hilarious because they're trying to mobilize and kill this woman's career, but they have nothing on her.
Oh no,
not a damn thing.
She's right now.
It is amazing.
She's far too powerful for any guy who's just calling her like.
She's the first new wave politician.
Oh yeah,
she's the first millennial.
Well, she just introduced the thing about not making it illegal for the military to recruit people via Twitch. And it's like, only fucking her knows what fucking Twitch is.
Exactly. That's why, like,
and how dangerous, like, that would very easily be. That, like, the U.S. Army could just be like, what's going on, guys?
Yes.
Here we are posting up in Iraq.
Well, she's like, for the first time, it feels like she's one of the few politicians that's not. She's still human.
Oh yeah.
A human fucking being. Like, you could see her at the bar, and you would understand her.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I think a lot of the time there was this huge disconnect between the populace and politics, because there was this huge stigma of it was this presidential. Going back to you got to act presidential. Well, have any of our? That's why like Trump was so popular because he didn't act presidential, or like what I mean? But what is acting presidential in a sense? You know what I mean? But it's like we've had presidents, war criminals and stuff. So what is acting presidential? You know what I mean? So it's like
they were polite on camera. That's what
exactly.
They were,
so there's so many people like there's this weird esteem of like the normal person will never get politics, and she's kind of destigmatizing that when she shares her process, her day to day, like her notebooks of how see the speech I wrote. These are my notes of what it looked like before.
Right.
that's amazing. That's groundbreaking and that's revolutionary. And if I'm gonna believe in a system, I want people like that in there where she has a great ability to communicate to her people, her representatives. Because the reason I don't vote now is because to me your vote is I am signing off that you are going to represent me in my actions. But there hasn't been anyone I've deemed I want to sign off on. You know what I mean? I don't want to sign off on them.
I mean,
because I don't give them the consent to represent me.
I mean, I voted for Bernie twice. I'm 0 for 2 on that.
I voted for Bernie 2016 in Michigan. And to me, it's also I hope, and it's all what it sucks is like I see AOC, and I want to just fawn over this woman, but then I'm so traumatized from a history of not one politician other than, I think Bernie. Maybe Lewis.
Bernie's been Bernie, John Lewis,
You know what I mean? But like,
Bernie's again been the same dude for the last 50 years.
But he had a disconnect of his. He was an outsider in his own party. He was never a Democrat though. But he was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was never a Democrat, but he was never. But that was the only.
But that was traction. Again where a lot of people I think gravitated towards him because.
And a lot of people criticize Bernie. Say he's do nothing, passive, docile, and it's like I think this man. They opened the door and they seen it was Bernie and they tried to close it. And he had his foot in the door. And he never was able to get in, but he kept that foot open. And now that we're having other people that are able to get in there and pry and help him pull.
Which is why because AOC was clearly a student, I would say, of Bernie, where it's like she's that new wave, like a present day Bernie style, where they actually know what the problem is. Or even small problems that you don't think about, and they'll actually introduce it because they are a human being. Mm-hmm. They were a human being 4 years ago, but they were just hyper intelligent. That was it. But they were just a bartender, which again is you're doing well when she raises $50,000 on Instagram Live when it's literally she could have just called it a night early or something like that. And people are like, go back to the bar and stuff like that. Tried to put her down because she's worked a job that most people have worked. Mm-hmm. It's such a weird thing where a lot of people who are...
I promise you your bartender's making more than you.
Where these people are weirdly condescending to someone who's much higher up than they are right now. And I think it's because they almost resent...
That part of them that never did that.
She took a massive leap forward made a massive move to better herself and to become a very prominent voice when it's all right, well, I'm in her position, but add 20 years and add a whole lot of kind of bitter resentment towards myself that I then lash out at other people with because
that's what a hate is. A lot of times it's projected.
Usually it's someone who's man, I'm gonna go do this, or someone who's you kind of see it with where it's an older worker that's kind of in the same position you are, and you're talking about oh yeah, I'm doing this because I wanna be a musician or I want to be this. Then they're it's just I don't know. That seems a little from
quit, so you're probably
from this area.
People want to project their limitations onto you.
Oh yeah,
because it makes them feel safe. Because if someone else fails, it validates their failure.
Oh yeah, well, because then it's see, it wasn't
my fault.
Easy.
It wasn't my fault.
It was the system's fault. Yeah. Oh, so that, I think that's why I'll always say in some respect, go for your dreams, because man, then I feel the thing that'll kill you oftentimes is what if I went for it if you didn't go for it.
Man, I can't wait to show my. I'm I don't know if because I haven't really had a too crazy of a story, but I feel like I've had a different story than most in terms of my life. But there was just a jump of I don't because I feel like I followed the advice and I followed what I could, and then there became a point where it felt like the advice I was giving myself was better than the advice I was getting from anyone else. And yet you never want to be too shut off to ideas, too big headed.
You don't want
just
you
miss
don't want to
ideas.
cook on your own.
Yes.
You need some people.
But there's got to be some point where I trusted myself more than the other people, and I started making moves for myself, and there was some backlash initially, and then over time, as I stuck with it and followed my passions more, even when I was starting to fail, but I stuck with my passions and where I was going, and now I'm not on the other side of it, I'm kind of in the middle of it, but I'm starting to see
process, yeah.
some fruits of my labor, of my
Sure.
of my new life, my new
Sure.
life that I put forward, and I'm starting to see. When I was basically I was digging myself a big old hole in my life, didn't know what I wanted to do, and then someone had said the best way to get yourself out of a hole is to stop digging. And that's when I kind of had to stop, reset, go through what I went through, and then, and now I'm starting to put dirt in the hole. I'm starting to fill it in, and I'm on my way back up, and it's exciting. It's exciting. So I'm telling you, it's scary at first, and you will fail over and over and over, but you're gonna fail doing what you want to do anyways.
Right, and
Or don't want to do.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Most fields where, especially if you consider it like a dream, usually that is because you call it a dream for a reason, because it's something that seems so far away and this and that. When it's like if you want to be a musician, I mean, if you want to be an artist, I mean, ideally, I guess on one hand you could say like this is the toughest time because everyone's trying the same thing, and they're a lot of times using the same methods. But at the same time, this is the easiest time because it's anything like if you had to send like a reel of like you playing some music or a CD, like you would have to be the dude who's just like trying to hand it off for like $5.
It was very much who you knew, and I think this world's starting to become a little bit less of that. It's still like who you know is more important than what you know.
Yeah.
But I think we're being the generation that's slowly changing that, and it's still like I'm not saying the millennials are perfect and people our age, because it's like at the end of the day you'll have our generation more than else I've seen is we're dreamers, yet we'll post all these dream stuff, and most people are inactive about it. And when they see someone taking action, it's like you just said you support dreamers and dreaming and following your dreams and doing all this thing, but then you see an actual one and you're quiet about it. Like someone following it, or you have this condescending energy towards it. So it's like if we want to see a world with more dreamers, we have to support those dreamers.
Yeah. No, and even I think even sometimes fellow dreamers will like look at someone who's maybe either a step ahead or doing slightly just more than what you're doing, especially if you're like going for like the same goal. And I think it's only natural as a human being to then kind of feel defensive, especially because it's like in the back of your head you're already you maybe like you're a little insecure, and you think to yourself like, I know people are thinking that like I'm not doing enough, or like this or that. It's like, oh, good for them for working so hard. Good, and
sometimes it's easier to tear down someone than it is to build yourself up.
Yeah, like you don't want to see yourself as someone with flaws, or maybe see yourself as lazy or things like that. Even if it's not that you are lazy, it's just that you're
not taking the right action.
You could do more. You're not doing enough. Like it's not. Yeah. Again, you don't have to call yourself a name. You don't have to put yourself down by
Mm-hmm.
giving yourself a character trait. It's like, oh well, yeah, of course, no shit. Like everyone feels the urge to be lazy. I mean, some people work so hard, work themselves to the bone, and then it'd be like they sleep for 4 days straight, and that's how they operate. Most are not like that. A lot of people do just want to sit around, and it's like the whole thing with quarantine, where it's like, man, I could have written like 3 books, 3 screenplays, this and that. It's like, ideally, yes, if I had like a strictly like strict regiment that I stuck to, then yeah, that could have happened. But I understand just the numbness that it's super easy to fall into, especially right now, where it's just like some days it's like, man, I feel like shit today, or I got 2 hours less of sleep than I needed, and I have kind of, my head's in a funk.
Yes.
And it's just like, you know what, today's shot. I can't help it. And it's like those days, just take them, because clearly we've had so many days just to ourselves in theory, especially for those of us that aren't working. Just a lot of days where it's just you and for a lot of people, yourself, because not everyone has roommates. Not everyone is living with a spouse or a significant other. So you're just kind of stuck with yourself. And as any artist of any kind will tell you, you're your own worst critic.
Yes.
So you don't need that person to actually say to you, "Hey, that guy's doing pretty well. What's your deal?" Because you'll do it to yourself.
Yeah.
Or to the point where it's like you'll record. You're like, "Oh, I wanna start recording covers," and it's like, but that's not really your range. You'll say that to yourself. Even it doesn't matter because nobody cares.
We don't really. Oscar had a great Facebook shared or something, but he had shared something of like we don't really do things out of fun and passion anymore. We kind of do them out of productivity. So it's like, even if you don't really like basketball or like not a basketball player, no way, shape, or form, right? But let's just say you're outside in your driveway, the house you moved in had a hoop, and you're bored. Like, you can't just shoot around for fun or like just move your body. It's like if you're gonna do something, you want to be good at it. You can't just play video games and like suck at them, right? But ninja, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you don't,
can you be ninja? Are you willing to color your hair
regularly? If you like losing, then you're just a piece of shit. like, there's got to be a balance of be gentle to yourself, and it's like it's not that serious, not that deep, but there also has to be that that feeling in the back of your head of like I'm not doing enough. That's good. That's good.
Speaking of
doing it to an extent, that's good. It helps you move.
I shot a basketball the other day.
Yeah.
I'm fucking inept. I am so bad. I haven't like shot like any basketball regularly since high school. I tried to shoot it, and it was like you like took out a part of my brain, and there's just a missing frame in between me putting the ball up and actually letting go of it.
That's how I feel when I like
the fucking pole.
That's how I felt trying to do this. Hook up this fucking computer.
Because Dad isn't here. May he rest in peace.
Help.
But no, like, and that's just like I remember because on Twitter, of course, it was like again every so often Twitter will have like those posts that are usually kind of out of touch, or actually they're not out of touch, but they represent something that's a problem with society.
That's my Twitter. That's my Twitter.
Another Twitter. But it was like a Joe Rogan clip of him saying essentially the problem with video games is they're fun but they're a waste of time. To which he commented on, of course, like, oh, if you do jujitsu and you just do it regularly, then you can open up your own dojo. First of all, Joe, not everyone's going to open a goddamn dojo. And what happens, Joe? What happens if I become an expert at jujitsu and it turns out no more dojos? Because everyone else followed your advice, but they did it a little bit faster. Now all of a sudden, I'm just an asshole who, on the off chance that someone starts... I'm hoping someone fights me so that I can show off I'm fucking Batman. But it's one of those things where it's like, yes, like most people aren't playing video games on the off chance that, I'll become a famous streamer, or I'll even just be able to make video game content, or I'll be able to go professional. It's sometimes, especially now, I think it's just in general, we're just, everything is tuned to the point where it's like, oh, are you doing something that is practical and helping you become a better person every single moment? And it's like, if no, then you are wasting your time.
Sometimes the best way you can be you is to treat yourself with love and grace. And the best you can put forward is the best you for other people to experience. It makes their life inherently better.
Oh yeah, because if you're just constantly like, all right, well, if like, oh, you feel guilty about sitting on the couch for like 10 minutes, it's like, no. Make it 20 minutes.
Where I get where like sitting on the couch for 7 hours in a day scrolling
like,
through Twitter,
yeah.
That's gonna fuck your day up. But sitting on for 40 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. That's where like I kind of changed my schedule up where it's going through like my whole like leaving society phase. You can't really leave society, but like in my mind I kind of remove myself from the stream of society. And initially it was like I'm gonna overstructure myself, and so I had a schedule. I had all this. I had meal times, whatever. I lasted about 3 days with it.
Oh, yeah.
This fucking sucks. You know what I mean? Because I'm not that type of person. That's why I didn't like school. That's why I didn't like work your traditional job, 9 to 5. Because I don't, that structure kind of, I'm better when I'm off the hip. And so I kind of became like, I'm going to sleep when I want to sleep. I'm going to eat when I want to eat. And a lot of people think that leads to a gluttonous life. Whereas, so I would wake up, and the only structure I had in my day was my first act was make my bed, brush my teeth, shower, clean my body, clean my room. That was only structure I made myself do every day. And from then on, it kind of like capitulated in terms of like, after I do that, I was kind of feeling productive. So then my mornings became productive so that after about 2-3 hours, everything I needed to get done in the day was done by like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And then I got to go for the rest of my day and just kind of do what I felt. And then go to work at 8 p.m. Right? So it was like I stopped having 4 different meals, and when I'm hungry I eat, and I feel so much healthier than you know what I mean, when I sleep. And it used to be like, all right, I'm gonna go to bed at 11 and wake up at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know, and now it's I'm gonna go to bed when I'm tired. I'm gonna wake up when I'm, and that's the beauty of having the schedule I have, is I don't have to set an alarm because I work at night.
Right.
And so it helps me. But I understand it doesn't work for everybody, and I understand that like structure. So coming on the other side of my best friend, my brother, my non-romantic soulmate, Najee Pruitt. That's my guy. He's the opposite. He thrives when his entire day is planned out, and he's got alarms for everything he does, and he's got like he thrives in that. And that's why we call ourselves yin and yang, not because we're black and white, but because like we're the exact opposites of each other, yet we share that same almost like bond of like me and him. Like straight up, he wakes up at 4 a.m. His alarm goes up at 4 a.m. so he can go to the gym, get his workout in, and I'm coming home half drunk from my job at 4 a.m. Yet we're like, me and him have this closest bond I'll say of anything ever to in my life, and yet we're complete opposites. So I'll stumble to the gym with him drunk, get my workout in, fall asleep at 6 a.m. in the morning. You know what I mean? Like we're the exact opposites, but we still have. It's good for us.
God, I've lifted with a hangover.
It's not fun. It's not fun.
It's so rough.
So like, I had absinthe for the first time.
Oh God. Yeah, drinking and Sylvester the cat.
So I had one shot of it before I leave. So we had it at the bar and we're closing up. I'm like, what is that? Because like I've heard of absinthe and I thought it was something like kind of lit, like a crack pipe almost.
It's what they drink in colony times.
So he gives it to me, and wow, if you can, it's a bit pricey, but if you can experience absinthe once in your life, just a shot of it, and I was giggly, having a great time. But then once you start, oh shit, my stomach, you know.
Once your body realizes what's in it, it reacts poorly.
But it's also like just in my own house and just in my best friend relationship, like there's two extremes.
Yeah.
So it's what works for you. That's why like a lot of the problems with self-help books and self-help and all that is like they try to blanket. They try to blanket their philosophy of like, this shit worked for me, it will work for you. No, you know what I mean. So but like some things they tried may help you.
Yeah.
But it's like trial and error and find out who you are. So it's like give yourself grace to make mistakes.
Yeah.
So when you make mistakes, you find out what works for you.
Find your groove. Yeah, it's like start every morning by watering your flowers. It's like my lilies do not need watering every morning.
Exactly.
Thank you. So what do? The whole thing's fucked.
Yes.
My routine has a 15-minute window that's no longer. It's like, how about this? It's like, oh yeah, like the whole concept. I have a friend as well who wakes up at 5 a.m. every day. Absolutely cut man, looks great. However, it's just like, man. Like, but again, it's like he's an actor, so it's like, oh, it's about kind of having that physique ready to go. And even another thing I saw on Twitter was Zac Efron has that new show where it's him traveling around and things like that.
I love to see that glow up because like that's my dream job. You know what I mean? Like that Anthony Bourdain type shit. You travel the world and get to
man,
explore.
I'm just a famous guy who's just going traveling to places. Like, man, you eat what here? hey, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's the episode. See you later, guys.
Yep.
Like,
Y'all seen Zac Efron experience life.
but yeah, no, just hit the clip of him eating pasta. And
we
then,
wanted
like,
to cry.
And the joke, and the joke was like, man, mood. But it's like, he straight up says like, I haven't had carbs in like 6 years.
Had a damn near eating disorder.
So it's like,
and forced through Hollywood.
Well, because again, you look at him in like Baywatch, look at him all these things. He's so like he's almost emaciated,
and he would have been criticized had he not been. And that's the whole like that's the toxic masculinity. I feel like we think of like that's not a real body.
It's a misconception of what a normal person on a normal diet was, which I think because I
looked
remember
healthy but was no healthy.
Because I remember the actor Kumail Nanjiani, who was in like shows like Silicon Valley and is going to be in the new Marvel Eternals movie.
Yep, I know. Yep,
yeah.
I know
Posted him like, and he looks super cut.
Yeah.
But because I think the goof was like, what, this goofy schlub is now a hunk.
Well, that's the.
Well, I mean, it's the Chris Pratt. It's like
India. Well, that's like we can bring that to like a little bit of racial profiling of like this India dudes are supposed to be goofy, like you know what I mean? Like they can't.
Yeah, well, no, because it's and I remember that was like the whole thing was like this goofy. I guess it'd be like if like Jordan Peele was like super diesel all of a sudden.
Yeah,
it's like, man, I remember when he was a silly guy in a sketch show.
Yeah, there is no diversity in character. Like
yeah.
Or like when Zac Efron played. That's what's the funniest thing to me. The peak of that culture was when Zac Efron played the Jeffrey Dahmer.
Ted Bundy.
No, Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
Where he played. So the whole premises of Ted Bundy was he was this attractive, suave man who coerced women into sexual acts and then
very easy.
Murdered them, right, through his attractiveness. So when they hired an attractive human being to do
critics rave. I get it, man.
You know what I mean? So it's like people are like, "Oh, you're trying to romanticize a killer," but it's like that's how that killer worked.
That's how he operated. It was like, he's not too bad on the eyes.
Yeah, and it's like because Zac Efron's hot, he can't be a serial killer.
Oh, he slaughtered people? Okay, fine, never mind. Bit of a turnoff.
Yeah, I'm saying. Oh, yeah.
But that was exactly it. It's like there's a reason why why that worked is just, and also like I think that also represented another aspect of Zac Efron, just like, bro, can I do other things besides just being hot? Mm-hmm. Like, can I have like good roles?
That's what I'm saying.
Which again, they have a shot of him where again he's very in shape and just has hair like on his body versus
they
before.
call him dad bod.
Yeah, call him dad bod. It's like, do not insult.
That's like calling a woman who is not like you can't see her ribs and you call her plus size.
It's like absolutely not. Like, do not it's like, oh, you look at Brad Pitt in like Fight Club, you look at Jason Momoa in Justice League or Aquaman, and you're like, man, that is a body. It's like, well, it's because they like they didn't
for like
they didn't
days.
drink water. Like most of them are dehydrated as all hell.
That's what Hugh Jackman was saying about one of the Wolverines. He was like so dehydrated he passed out on set multiple times.
Miserable. Yeah,
multiple times just to get through like 2 or 3 scenes of his shirt off.
Of him just being like completely just vascular and huge is just like, oh yeah, no water, and it's just like, yeah, like let's do the scene so we can do one with my shirt on so I can drink some water for God's sakes.
Like that was Chris Evans. Chris Evans said the same shit of like I wasn't like they would make him work out to get a pump before they would shoot, and then
Dude.
like that didn't work out, get another pump in. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I was about to say we did it for just at Civic. Like like for Mamma Mia, we had like parts where it's like, all right, this is like the shirtless scene, so it's like we're backstage just ripping out some like push-ups and doing jumping jacks.
So is that part of showbiz or is that unhealthy?
I think I mean I don't know. Like
again, can you reach a balance?
Because that's the thing. Because I think that's no one asked us to. I think that's
just yeah.
No one was like, hey, do you mind like repping out some push-ups? You're looking a little like fair. we didn't get that.
That's fair.
Like versus like I think in Hollywood and things like that, there's much more of an expectation of like, oh man,
there are millions of hours.
This guy's gonna be a superhero. It's like even Paul Rudd. I remember like a shot in Ant-Man where he also has abs. Mm-hmm. It's like, you didn't have to.
He's a 45, 50-year-old man.
Like,
how do you have abs?
I understand he's he's probably 200 actually. He follows the Keanu Reeves rule of aging, which is no.
I hope I play on that trend.
You look at time and say no. But it's like he didn't have to.
No.
It's just like listen, just because even Chris Hemsworth, who's born with godlike Australian genes.
Yes.
Like it's like listen, it's not your fault. That's why Chris Hemsworth has the gumption to sell his workout routines.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure if I do your workouts, if I spend like the $3.99 on the App Store, I'm sure I too will also be 6'2", 250, and absolutely just yoked.
That's where body positivity. We're gonna cover body positivity. So last night, me and my buddies were just chilling. He was a bar back, and we're just chilling after our shift, kind of talking about like just things like that in life. Of like you're kind of there's a point. There's a point of where it's unhealthy, and there's a point where it's a healthy criticism, where it's a like
I'd say unhealthy living.
Give yourself grace to understand that like you don't need to be peak performance to love yourself and be happy, and like you can definitely love yourself when you're unhealthy and big and large. Like you can definitely love yourself at all times, but sometimes loving yourself is wanting better for yourself. And so it's one thing to hear something from like a skinny dude of like, and that's why we concern ourselves of health and weight. It's kind of not really that big a correlation in health and weight. I mean, there is to an extent, but it's like if you can move around the way you want to move around, and there's a part where like your physical health affects your mental health and your moods and emotions. So it's you should want to like be the happiest person you can be. Like not the happiest, but I don't know. You should be
the most fulfilled,
the freest, where it's like my body doesn't define me, right? Yeah, it doesn't hold me back either. So it's you don't have to look at any shape or form like jacked or nothing. There is no ideal you to anyone but you. You define that for yourself, where you're at, right? And it doesn't have to look like anything, it doesn't have to be anything, but whatever you can go to sleep and go to bed with. You should strive for. You should definitely, but there should definitely be a. I'm not saying fat shaming. Like fat shaming's terrible, but it's also like one of my best friends. Like he started to get a little bit large, and me and my friends like, bro, you getting fat. Like cause that's the relationship we had. You can't just say that to anybody.
Oh yeah,
that's the relationship we had. And this man now is a bodybuilder. Fucking has trophies, titles.
You hurt him. You bullied him.
That's what I'm saying. We bullied him into.
Bro, you're looking a little fat. Oh yeah, you little bitch.
And like 4 years later, this man's jacked.
Say I'm fat again.
That's what I'm saying.
While his arms are 20 feet apart.
Like we could have easily said like, "Hey, bro, like you're starting to get unhealthy. Like love yourself. Like, but like that's not the relationship we have, right?
You're looking a little unhealthy. Maybe you should love yourself a little more.
That's what
Bitch, fuck you.
That's what I'm saying. So there's like know your friends and know, but there's also like encourage them to do. I don't know, but there's like a balance of like we gotta stop trying to have these blanket ideas and these blanket terms of like like this works for me. This is gonna work for you. The reason is you're not working is because you don't do it like I do. Fuck that.
Well, no, yeah, like, and that goes around from you're too skinny to you're too big, whatever. It's something where I guess do your best to make it so your body doesn't limit
what you can do.
Limit what you can do, or I guess what you love to do. Because I feel like the second that kind of you start like, oh, I can't really do that as much anymore. It's like, okay, well then maybe take whatever steps need to be taken in order to get back to that place where you're capable of doing it.
Like your body is your vehicle, and some people have no problem just going around the neighborhood their entire life. That's fine. Some people want to take cross-country road trips. You know what I mean? So like you got to take care of your vehicle to be able to do so. So it's like take care of your body so you can live the lifestyle that's most fitting for you.
Yeah, like there
should definitely be an emphasis on health, but there shouldn't become this body dysmorphia.
Yeah, go on a run so you can have a beer later.
Go love yourself. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you're the type of person who are like, I don't want to have a beer later. Okay, good for you.
Then no, like perfect.
That's what I'm saying, perfect. But it's like
why do you think LaCroix and like all of these different kind of like White Claws, why do you think these are being popularized? because a lot of people I think are like, bro, we're wise enough to know like beer guts are real, man.
Mm-hmm.
They can happen. Again, if you do not care
At all.
apps beautiful.
You can if the 600-pound life makes you happy,
I was supposed
go
to say,
for it.
I mean,
Right?
I mean that kind of limits you.
It limits you, but
may,
if that's what you fuck with,
you may be on TLC, but I don't know if you want to be on
and
TLC.
your lifespan may be cut short in half.
Here,
But if that's what you want,
we're learning
Okay.
less and less on the Learning Channel as the years go by.
yes.
But it's one of those things, yeah, where I think, I mean, again, like you'll see it on Twitter sometimes where it's like, ugh, it's like one of the Jenners is just literally existing outside, and obviously they're very skinny because they can afford to be, because they can buy all the things they need to in order to maintain that.
Now half your body's plastic.
And then they're
I
like,
don't
oh
wanna
my
talk
god,
about
they're such goals. And it's like, well,
that's dangerous.
just be,
That's
it's like, well, oh,
dangerous.
what? Just because she's skinny? Just because, just because it's like, oh, well, her butt's a little bigger than mine. It's like, okay, fine. Like, but again, it's like, that doesn't,
Well, that's what
that shouldn't limit, like,
it gets terrifying when you
Don't get
see,
caught up
You
in
see
all
your
that.
significant other scrolling down, and they're liking these pictures of women with bigger asses than you, and you start comparing yourself.
yeah.
And comparison's often the thief of joy. Like, it's just you got to come to a point where we gotta start worshiping ourselves, love ourselves, and you can definitely see other people and see, wow, that works for them. I might try it, but don't expect the same results.
Don't expect to look like them, because again, even going back to the Kumail Nanjiani thing, his caption for that picture was, hey, here's how I got here. And it's like, newsflash, this isn't something even I would have done had they not given me all the resources I needed to. And even like Mac from It's Always Sunny, who got super in shape for no reason other than he could, because it's, partly his show. But he was like, oh yeah, all you have to do is go to bed at 7 p.m. Never eat anything at 7 p.m. Always after 7 p.m. Don't go to bed late. Eat your weight in protein. Don't eat anything you like. And it's like ba. Like, that's how it is. And it's like, because you're working towards a goal, when I feel like obviously there are some people who work out every day, hard workouts, and they're in tremendous shape.
The Rock,
and then they'll like eat their prepared plain chicken that's in the freezer with the white rice and no seasoning. And it's like, and they have their gallon of water ready to go, and that's all 3 meals. And it's like, some people feasibly can keep that going. I admire it, because, bro, I get fucking bored with water after like 3 glasses. I'm drinking water, and my brain goes, this is boring. It's like, this is why, like, I bought a SodaStream purely so I can have what we call in our household spicy water. Where it's just bubbly, like LaCroix water, and where it's like a lot of people like I'll see on Twitter people talking about like, oh, we made fermented water.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's water, but it's 5% alcohol per volume, pretty much. and it's like, y'all hate drinking water this much? Yes.
Y'all might be alcoholic.
Yes, people are just that bored with drinking water on their own that they're just like, you know what? Fuck it, make it alcoholic. I don't care. It's like, well, you could drink like unsweetened iced tea. Get that shit out of here. It tastes like I'm drinking coffee grounds.
That's funny.
Which, that is what coffee is, which is also why I
Bean
drink
juice water. Bean soup.
I love bean juice water, but that's why I put the little cold foam at the top. So my brain thinks I'm getting a little sweet treat.
Methinks we like it.
Like, ooh, gimme. And I drink a little bit of cinnamon that's put on top, like, yeah, this is nice. But it's like,
Some fava beans.
bro, I just like fucking frothed up some milk, and I just poured a little bit on top. It was like, bro, some more. It's like I'll spend like I'll spend $5.
Yes.
Purely because they frothed up some milk, put it at the top, and sprinkle a little cinnamon on there just for me.
Thank you. You treated me.
But like that's one of those things where it's like, especially after, because doing Mamma Mia was the first show where I ever felt that I actually had to be in any specific good shape for a role. Like other ones are like purely functional purposes, like, dude, can you do the routines? Then you're fine. Mm-hmm. But that was the first one where it's like, okay, I'm gonna be a hot boy. And it's one of those things where it's like, listen, I gotta make up for wherever I can't make up for elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Make up for whatever reason God resented me and gave me certain things, like sweating jeans, where I just sweat doing anything.
Man, I used to get in trouble at practice because I'm not a sweater at all. And like coach would come by and like, well,
like,
he's working. You're
You're
not working.
You're not working, bro. I don't got those jeans.
I don't sweat.
Also, what's gonna fall off you? You have, yeah.
No
what
way.
What are you sweating? There are no calories.
There's
in you.
no calories for me to burn.
Bro, I've been gnawing on the same mint leaf for the last 3 meals, dude. And I'm stuffed.
I eat ice for my first meal.
Yeah. But that was one of those things where it's like, all right, this is the first time. So no one told me. No one like, hey, no fatties in this show. Because it's one of those things where it's like, yes, you're going to be in a wetsuit, but bro, you can either unzip it or not. And it's like, no, listen, I want to unzip it. I want to do this. So it's like, bro, I'll go to Planet Fitness. I'll be a normie, but not a lunk. And I was like, all right, listen, I'll eat at fucking Noodles and Company and Qdoba, but I'll get like the light rice, or I'll do these things.
Oh, you bastard.
because that's what it was. I felt like that's what I needed to do.
Yes.
That's what would make me feel better. That would feel good going into that. And it's like, all right, I lost like 30 pounds and I only mainlined Bang Energy and coffee and black coffee.
That's like crack and can.
Oh, yeah, like cotton candy is like, what the? How do you do this? What is?
I worked at a health foods place and we had Bang Energy and we had this big old sample, so I had one and I'm really susceptible to caffeine. Like if I have a cup of coffee, like my hand may shake. So I was sitting there just.
Oh yeah.
Like vibrating off the fucking shelf.
Oh no, and like there's like Rain has like a lemonade. Which is, it tastes like fucking Gushers.
Oh no!
It's a 16-ounce can of Gushers.
Oh no!
And it's so just. And in the place where I used to work, but yeah, no sugar.
That's incredible.
I mean, it's got like the fake sugar.
Yes,
but
yes.
It's like, it's not aspartame. It's like the slightly less bad sugar.
It's Mama Cat.
Ooh.
I've never seen Mama Cat. Sorry.
I was about to say, she's chowing down. Cat, I'm noticing that cats do that, where it's just like they, like, all right, take a little bit of a scoop, put it on the ground, eat it over here, repeat. But yeah, so it was one of those things where I took it upon myself, and I thankfully, obviously, other more professional parts of the industry are like, if you show up to this shoot and you're fat, or you're out of shape, we are like either recasting you or we're doing something different. To the point where there was a story of the movie Apocalypse Now, which had Marlon Brando, who was like, he was like the hunk of like the 70s. Mm-hmm. He was like, hey, listen, you're playing like the central villain role. We need you to be in great peak physical condition. He showed up very just overweight and all this stuff, and the director's like, fuck. And then so it went from like, oh, listen, there was going to be a huge showdown where it's like this John Wick style fight between the main guy and Marlon Brando's character, is now like, fucking, I don't know, man, put him in shadows to hide his fat. But then it turns out it was like, actually, that was a perfect move, because then he was able to muse philosophy, because Marlon Brando was a terrific actor who just stopped giving a shit at a certain point. Yeah. To the point where, because you know how he was in Godfather? Yeah. One of the main actors had his lines in his suit jacket, and he read it. But again, he was fucking excellent.
It's fucking hilarious.
It's like, I hate you. It'd be like the guy who like eats, like at high school, who would eat Cheetos before the track meet.
Oh, that was me.
And then they would set the PR, like the record for the team. It's like, fuck you.
That's why I had a buy one get a free coupon for Big Macs one time,
Yeah.
And I went over, got a Big Mac. This is sophomore year, and then came back and had my best game ever. Like 20 minutes later,
Or it'd be like
off 2 Big Macs. I was eating in the locker room as I was putting on my shoes.
or it'd be like those guys who are like, I don't want to race today. It's like, God damn it, go race.
Yes.
And then I would literally be personally recruiting them to beat my ass in this race.
I remember I wasn't gonna run that 2 mile, and
Yeah.
then you guys made me, and I broke the school record. It's still on the fucking school. It's still on the board to this day.
Exactly. It's one of
And I
those things-
wasn't gonna do it. I straight up wasn't gonna do it. You made me.
I was like, I'm bringing over this person to show me up in this race on my team. It's like, I know you are better than me. Go out there, you pain in the ass. And then he's gonna I have like a 400. I'm gonna run a 52. It's like, I hate you. I hate you.
much.
I'm busting my ass, and I'm getting like a minute 58 maybe, like on my best day. But it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, some people are just wired differently. Some people are more just athletically like their metabolism is far fucking nicer to them. And it's kind of one of those things where you just kind of got to work with that.
Well, it's like, it's weird because I would say my metabolism is it's something else. It's something special. You're right in terms of, but like, whereas I have a lot of people who would see it and be like, I really want your metabolism, but for me, it became almost like I don't want to be this skinny because it's almost I feel less of who I should be. Like everyone wants to be like when you're 6'5" man, you should feel like you're powerful, but I'm so skinny where like the perception was I wasn't as powerful as I should be. Whereas my power never came from that actually, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you gotta learn where your power actually comes from. And that was my body dysmorphia of like I didn't know. I thought my body should look like someone else's.
Yeah.
But my body's never gonna look like anybody
my
else. It's
body's
always gonna
wrong.
look. It's
Yeah.
always gonna look like it's meant to be. And I began like you gotta fall in love with how your body is different. Fall in love with the differences. That's where like I might say like the all men are created equal might be one of the biggest lies because it's like we are all created different, extremely different, and we instead of like pretending that we're not, we should embrace and like love those differences.
Work with what you have, because again, it's like so sometimes it's like for as much as it's like, oh my god, you're telling me like oh, Adele lost however many pounds, and it's like, oh, but I can't crack like 10 like 8 pounds.
That's where the
and it's like you can't help it sometimes.
It's upsetting that like the focus got on her weight loss instead of where's her mental at.
Well,
where was her? Why did she do it?
Because I know that was
what did she get from it?
Because it was like almost like to the point where I saw a column. Again, I'm not going to assume everyone's reaction was, "Damn it, I liked her when she was bigger."
Yeah.
Like, but legitimately, that was the column. Was like I miss Fat Adele, and it was like.
Because it made me feel...
Yeah. I was like, bro, she didn't release any music. What are you talking? You can't even say from an artistic standpoint.
Yeah.
Similar to how I miss Fat Josh from Drake and Josh versus like season
movie.
3 Drake and Josh, where it's like, oh,
puberty and his
it's
body
like,
changed.
Oh wow, he's in shape and he's falling over. That's not funny. As soon as you get like a big guy, ha, yes, this is what's funny.
Like, see, yeah, that's we gotta, yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like their journey is not your journey, and a lot of times, for as much as we get like these success stories of how Chris Pratt went from, again, schlubby comedic guy from Parks and Rec to holy shit, Chris Pratt's kind of attractive.
He controls velociraptors.
And he's kind of like, yeah, that was improv. The Velociraptors, they just
showed up on set.
They were just like, hang on, I'm gonna do a little move. It's like, how is he doing that? It's probably the abs. They respect his physique.
He's the alpha.
He is clearly the alpha. It's like for all those success stories of guys who completely transformed their image, you'll have some people who it didn't work out, or people didn't care, or it didn't grab as much people's attention. Like,
I hate how the focus gets put on the weight instead of like, what did this person gain mentally?
Well, because again, like Zac Efron, perfect example. He they're talking about like this show is coming after I think he came out of rehab, and like is working through himself, and finally is allowed to eat a fucking carb. Like it is allowed to like, oh hey, well what's what's on the menu, and do you have plain chicken and rice? Like instead is just like, oh yeah, I'll have this, and he's literally driven to tears because the man was like clearly was dictated to what he was allowed to eat for years.
And it could have been like, some people are like, well, he did it to himself, but it's like, because no one held a gun to him and made it, but it's like, the people in his life are saying you're not going to be successful unless you look like this.
Oh yeah. Oh,
right? Or
yeah,
his success was attributed to his
like,
looks.
listen, we're selling you because you're very
You're a hunk.
physically. Yeah, you're.
So if you're no longer this hunk, so that was like,
you're just a guy.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's terrifying. So he probably lived with that fear of, you know,
Oh,
what I mean? And
I
that
need
fucks
to,
you up.
I need work because again, especially in Hollywood, it's such a it can be such a petty industry that the second like again, some women, like some actresses will have a baby and then all of a sudden they're not seen as the sex symbol anymore. You know, even though it's like, oh, not a thing has changed.
People are mad. People are mad J-Lo shaking her ass because she got kids and she's 50.
It's like, bro, you liked it back then. It's like she's allowed to do whatever she wants.
You
just
just
like
mad
anyone.
because your 50-year-old wife is.
Yeah. It's like it's like Lizzo, just because, like, you know, she's bigger than the average artist, then she like flaunts her body. She's allowed to do that.
That's what
if
the Lizzo thing was never like that was.
I don't think it's because
blown
she's
out of proportion.
Oh yeah, and
The focus should never have been on the weight.
it shouldn't be like, wow, she is big and revealing her body. I don't like that. It's nice. It's just like, bro, as long as she's not harming anyone, as long as she's not breaking any rules.
Got weird when she wore a thong in the middle of a basketball game.
That was.
And that's what. It
That's
sucked.
the only one where I'm like,
you couldn't even
well.
criticize the woman because it was like it was considered fat shaming. And so like, I don't want this woman's ass in a
no.
child's
It's
face.
it's just in general. You can't just wear a thong to the basketball game.
Like we're wearing masks here.
Yeah, so
Cover up your ass.
You gotta yeah.
Wear a mask and cover up your ass.
You have to wear just a slightly longer skirt or something.
Yes.
Or that's literally all I'm saying. You can't show your ass even if you're.
Because I'm fat.
Yeah, I was like, well, no. Even if you were J-Lo or, you know, and like anyone else, if you're, it doesn't matter if in the public eye for the majority you are a physically attractive woman or if you're not. It's just like, well, no, just that one instance, like, well, maybe just wear a longer dress next time, so that you aren't revealing something that maybe you aren't supposed to in a public place.
And I get it of like,
Because a lot of people will be like, yeah, she's not even hot. It's like, well, no, that's not the point.
And that's where I think that's where people like it fueled both sides of the argument. Cause it's like people are like, this is why we don't want to accept her. Because the minute we start accepting her, now we can't criticize her. She showed her ass, and my kid shouldn't see this ass. And it's like, at the end of the day, your kid seeing a woman's ass ain't gonna fuck him up.
ESPN's not like, and we're cutting away to the Lizzo ass feed.
Lizzo ass feed.
And it is just as barren. It is just as left out as it was before.
I'm not saying that's why maybe I probably shouldn't say she shouldn't do that. But I'm just saying you could do. There are endless amounts of options of what you could wear. And you chose that one.
Nobody's ass should be out at a Lakers game.
Yeah, but I'm saying like even if it was like it's not detrimental to your child, but it's also like
I was about to say Chris Hemsworth's ass shouldn't be out at a Lakers game. Just like
that's what I'm saying. It's just like
just
sometimes have some human decency where it's like think about just. If your ass is out, it's kind of like that's dirty.
Just like any random person should not have their ass out at any
Wear a
point
mask
in a
and
public
cover your
place. That's seriously.
Like I don't get it. But that's where it gets to the point of
But it's
because she was such in that like she was almost untouchable to her. Like I think that's where some people get scared of
Because
the
the
left community because the argument is now you can't cancel.
you're putting down her physique,
Yes.
which is no. I at no point right now am I saying, you know, it's like no plus size. I'm not saying no plus size woman should be allowed to wear that outfit ever.
Just maybe not at a basketball
It's
game.
just don't do it in such a public venue to the point where people are seeing you probably in not exactly the way you're intending. And like it's like just like how it's like, oh well, when you wear a skirt it doesn't mean you're like trying like, well listen, I saw it there because you're wearing a skirt. It's like no, that's not what this is. That's not why I'm wearing a skirt. I'm wearing a skirt because I like the outfit. It's not because oh well I'm revealing, oh well I saw you, I was looking because you invited it. It's like it's that whole just trap of like I'm trying to excuse sexually harassing you.
Yep. And that's where we should get to the point where it's like it's not like I'm controlling what you wear. It's just there should be a double standard of again like going back to the consumer and the producer of like there's a whoever's producing content. So like, she wasn't producing no content, but it's like you have to be aware of the image you are not responsible for how others view you, but you should be aware of how others may view you.
Be conscientious of how be aware of how people are perceiving you and why.
So you have it because you have a control and responsibility. So it's also like, again, if you so choose to do that, and I don't know if she had every right because it's a private venue, public venue, but private ownership. So it's like you got to follow their rules. So I don't know if like that's a Staples thing, if you can have your ass hanging out like that. I don't care, but it's also like they show the cheerleaders and all that, right? Blah blah blah. There's a double standard.
Yeah,
but it's like their skirt, but it's also like they don't have their things. Their asshole is not eating them up.
Yeah, well,
eating up their skirts.
It's not like when you like toss a cheerleader and like for a second like the skirt goes up because gravity and physics, and people are like, hey.
Yes. So like at the end of the day, wear what you want to wear, but don't be surprised at motherfuckers' actions. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh well, yeah, just like how people like anything from like someone putting up a sign in their front yard, and it's like your neighbor comes over and it's like, well, I recognize this is your yard. I would like if you took it down, and it's up to you to be like, is this sign being up more important than maybe for whatever it may be? Even
I
if
would
it's
rather talk to that person than take my sign down. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's where you weigh those.
It's like which obviously in most cases, if you're putting a sign up in your yard, usually you feel pretty strongly, kind of like a bumper sticker.
That's where like Lizzo, like if she was completely fine with handling all that backlash, then wear whatever fuck you want to do.
Then
like, show your ass. I don't care.
Then wear that outfit if it's not like breaking any rules.
But if you're gonna be
ahead.
upset afterwards that people conversating about it, you made a conversation piece. Don't be mad that people are conversating about it.
Yeah, you have to be aware of, I guess, what could be the fallout or
there's
could
also
be the effects.
there's also responsibility on the consumer side of like, you saw it. How does her ass out affect you?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Leave it alone. But it's like there are bigger problems to worry about. I understand. It's just there's a lot of ways you can think about it. But at the end of the day, it's like,
so I really
cover your ass, wear a mask.
That game-winning 3 was really nice. I wish I wasn't so distracted by Lizzo's ass to appreciate it.
Like
yeah.
you could have
left
it alone.
You're fine.
You could have left it alone. But it's like, I get that's where like you gotta get. There's multiple perspectives that will have a point to be made.
Yeah, as long as you're aware of what you're putting out into the world, you can criticize. And I'm talking.
You can have your opinion.
You can have your opinion on what they're putting out. Yeah, don't put out like her.
Don't make it a personal attack.
Any physical characteristics about a person because no one deserves that. No one deserves to be shamed because and if like all people, we fucking shame ourselves enough. The last thing we need is for it to be like, meh, look in the mirror and be like, man, I'm so my I wish my face didn't look like this. And then you fucking open the door and your roommate's like, hey, I wish your face really didn't look like that. It's like, god damn it, like I know.
I mean, only parallel I can make when I seen that I heard the Lakers game was just Rikishi.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I was just like, why did you do that to yourself? Like,
you ever go up to a cashier or something and they tell you look tired? Oh. that is such like.
Well, that's where
bro.
I love working at the bar because I see
no one can see how tired you are.
Well, not even that, but it's like I work with a lot of female in the industry and they put up with just horrendous shit. Horrendous shit.
God
and like,
bless.
I've had to hold my tongue a few times because it's where they never get to the point where it's like
I have to step in.
It's always these and it's
microaggressions.
But they talk to me afterwards and it's like I make money from these dudes to entertain their little bullshit. Yeah. And they're talking about like, I get both sides, but I also understand what I'm signing up for. And as long as there's a line I hold, if they cross it, now we have a problem.
Well, no, yeah, if it's like, all right, there's like a guy talking too loud.
But there's also sometimes I'm just wondering like, who the fuck raised you? You know what I mean? Like I get more mad than they do.
Or it's something where it's just like it's like, oh, hey sweetie, you want a drink? And it's like, no thank you, I'm fine. And then it's like, no, come over. It's like, bro, get the hint. Get the hint. She said no in the most pleasant way possible. And more often than not, they are forced to continue being polite even though they're being a dick, because on the off chance that this guy is a little unhinged, and he'll start
That's so scary. That's
he'll
so
start
scary.
taking it as a challenge, and I feel so much. And empathize so much with a lot, like pretty much all women who have to deal with this.
And that's why, like, going back to AOC, full circle. We got full circle is like these GOP dudes don't know what they're dealing with. This woman's been through it. She was a bartender in New York, right?
Yeah,
Brooklyn.
yeah, and
This woman's seen and heard everything. You can't fake this.
Oh yeah,
woman.
you're telling me someone who again is an attractive young woman,
Yes.
like didn't deal with like a bunch of dudes trying to take her out after her shift. It's like not a chance. And then she clearly still has this like just
Grit
kind
and
of this
grind.
power and this like to just serve as a tremendous role model to people in the future, especially because I'm sure there are
I
plenty
just
of
hope this path continues. It's just terrifying because you see like
you've
this
seen
40-year trend of her being in a place that just is notorious for turning good people into just pieces of shit.
Well, again, look at her recent encounter with the congressman who called her a fucking bitch, and then had the audacity to apologize for his passion, and then defend it by saying, "Listen, I have a daughter.
You know who's the biggest bitch in the
I
room?
respect women. I
The
swear."
biggest bitch in the room wasn't him, wasn't her. It was the dudes who listened
the
to him
the
and
guy
stood
who was
by.
like, "Oh, I didn't hear. I don't know what I heard."
That's the biggest bitch in the room.
Oh, sure.
And that's where like if you're at the bar, and it's like, you don't necessarily have to step in. Just be aware of your surroundings, and if you see a woman that needs help, be
Oh, yeah.
aware of that situation.
Look out for him. Yeah, yeah.
It's just like that's why women are so powerful too, because that's what they do for each other.
Oh yeah.
It's
No,
great. That's
it's-
awesome.
it's-
That's why I love my women friends.
They in theory have like someone who two women who have no connection or completely independent could one of them could step in because they've seen this
Before.
interaction
Yep.
and they're like, I know exactly what I need to say so that this guy doesn't call bullshit. I know exactly what it is that will get you out of here and out of his frame of mind, because again there are so many just dangerous dudes with such bad habits that can lead
That
to
are enabled by
that
this
can
world.
lead to terrible actions that aren't reprimanded for it. That's why
I
like
also want to say that there's also a problem of we kind of view like sexual assault and sexual harassment as a purely like a male to female like interaction.
It's
Like
a-
male is the one doing it to them. I've had my dick grabbed on multiple occasions from women I didn't even know they're gonna do it. You know, I've had my
Sure.
ass grabbed. I've had them say horrendous things to me. So it's like this happens both sides almost as frequently. I will say the difference is it's not the physical intimidation part.
yeah, it's you're kind of in. I guess I haven't been in nearly enough experiences to really kind of channel it. So I guess I can't really speak out too much about it. But it is one of those things where again, kind of I've noticed like it seems to be the common characteristic is guy who's just like, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm not saying anything, or
Well, part of
I'm kind of just like I shouldn't. Oh, she'll stop.
There's instances in my life. It's happened. Maybe I don't know. I don't want to say why it's happened, but it's happened to me multiple times. And it's like I'm not even allowed to really, say it happened to me. You know what I mean? Like this woman,
Oh.
she grabbed your dick. Why are you complaining?
Yeah. Oh
Because
yeah.
I don't know this woman.
Well,
she grabbed my ass. You know what I mean? Like I didn't ask her to. I didn't
Well-
want her to. I don't know this woman.
It's like the whole thing of like a young like a guy's like a young male child has some inappropriate relations with his teacher, and a lot of people are like, man, you must be the coolest guy. Like it's like, well, no, well, it's like,
She took advantage.
well, think about what he's going through, because potentially his entire view of anything sexual is ruined, or even relationships or anything is completely ruined by this one instance where he was not the one in power and he got taken advantage of. And it's one of those things where it just I again, there's a lot of toxic masculinity stuff where kind of men behaving this way, or men calling each other gay for like I don't know, man, like I like essentially expressing emotions, and then it's like, oh, like, dude, don't be the whole no homo thing. I know like now no homo is kind of like an ironic thing, but it's
Well,
like
like
middle school was such a like was such a time where just doing anything, you were terrified if like someone would call you some kind of, you know, gay derogatory term,
because you didn't want to stand out.
You
want to do everything to stand in,
because that was like the worst case scenario, because then it's like, oh god, now everyone's gonna make fun of me. And it's like you know, god forbid you're actually someone of the LGBT community growing up in this time where like a gay slur.
And this is where I love that we're like educating ourselves out of it, but it's like we leave so many things through the cracks. So it's like during the whole Me Too movement, a lot of the problems we've seen in these sexual harassment things is a lot of people like will immediately say this dude harassed her because he is innately evil, but maybe he just didn't know what he was doing was harassment. Plain and simple, just ignorant. So it's like the same thing of like the ignorant racist, where it's like he doesn't know he's doing a microaggression. He means good intention. So it's like when you come up to a black man and he's speaking really proper, really well, and you say, wow, you speak white. That's fucked up to say. But in your mind, you thought you were giving a compliment, right? You didn't know you were giving a backhand compliment.
Well, because in theory, you're like, most of the African Americans I speak to are not like this.
So it's like, but now that we've brought it up to light, and now we've educated people on these microaggressions, and then we covered the Me Too movement, and we covered microaggressions and sexual harassment of men, I think we need to start talking about these women things. So it's like they kind of find a little bit of immunity in their victimhood of like they can't be the harasser, or they can't be the what's it called when you're not the victim, you're the other side.
The
perpetrator, whatever.
Yeah, perpetrator.
Whatever. You guys know what I'm trying to say here.
But well, as an example, Lena Dunham, who had a very successful show on HBO, and you know, pops up every now and then, wrote a book in which she channeled that she did sexual things with her 7-year-old sister when they were both, and that wasn't really that. I mean, it was criticized, but it wasn't like it just kind of came and went. Then she also had another occasion where she tried to hook up with Odell Beckham Jr., the wide receiver for I think the Browns now, and he said no. And I think she took that as an affront and like kind of like broadcasted it as like, man, he insulted me by rejecting me. It's
that's what I found at the bar. It's like a woman will have a way too straightforward advantage, and when I try to say no, they take it as offense. Whereas the same thing you guys are mad at men are doing, you're doing, but it's like I understand there's a complete entirely difference of I am not physically in harm from this 5'5" woman, right?
Yeah. But
also knowing that like she came at me with these crazy advances, uncomfortable for me, so I shut it down, and because of her reaction, now other people are mad at me for shutting it down, right? So now I become.
Well, it's one of those things where again, it's what's most important is recognizing harassment and abuse where it takes place, not with I guess the gender or the personal gender identity of the victim and the perpetrator. It's just recognize, don't make it a competition, don't make it where, well, no, this versus this is a far worse scenario. It's like just make sure you have empathy for those that go through anything that would then classify them as a victim, because what they need is support so that they can get through it. And that's what's important. It's not that your pain is greater. What's important is that you support the victims that are there. And as long as you do that, then you give them the best chance to move forward the best they can.
That's where empathy, you said it. Empathy is so lacking in our society. And that's where like on my Twitter, you see me heavily critical of certain sides, and it's not that I'm pro the other side. It's just we've already dismissed this one side. Good. This other side, I still feel is like empathy is out. You know what I mean? Like it's a veil of this still empathy. Like it's this moral superiority veiled without any type of empathy. Where it's like they try to blanket these terms of this is what's ideal, so this is what we're gonna do. So I think we need to like backtrack a tiny bit.
Yeah.
From like truth somewhere in the middle. I don't know what that is. We'll figure it out. We're like, I like that we're asking these questions because I think we're getting closer. We're figuring it out.
Sure.
And that's where like, as fucked up and as awful as this whole Trump experiment was, I think we'll come out on the other side better for it than if we never went through it.
In some ways,
because it exposed a lot of shit that was just hiding, and he kind of like lifted it out,
and it pissed off enough people that I think a fire has spread in a lot of people that I think we're gonna see, and hopefully that does lead to more AOCs and people like Bernie who have been fighting the good fight for years, and like John Lewis who just passed, people who just fought and fight to this day, and they haven't wavered because they believe they're doing what they're right, and it's as long as they're helping other people, that's what's important, and they'll keep doing it for as long as they can.
So you want to wrap up?
I think it's a good note to end on.
So go out, do your thing, be you, love yourself. No one knows what.
Absolutely. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself on this quarantine. It is a tough time for everyone, and
you will
it's
become better for it, though.
Support each other. Reach out to people that you haven't talked to in a while that you miss, because more often than not they do miss you back, and if they don't, that's their loss.
All right, we love you guys.
Love you. Bless you.
Also,
bless you, Andrew.
We got 1.5 thousand views on one video and 6 subscribers. Help. Help.
Yes, subscribe to the Basement Blokes YouTube channel.
We have a Twitter. We should probably do way more social media. We'll work on that. We're getting there.
I can only think of so many funny tweets, and they're subpar. So
I'm getting drunk tonight. I'm tweeting.
I'm doing my best. So follow us on social media, McKevin95,
Kevin31G.
and I think it's Andy Vandy6. He can correct me, whatever. May he rest in peace. And we love you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And bless up.
Hey, that was a dance. Look at us. Look at us. Who would have thought? Now we're going to do it. Stop.
Yeah, I think that's... Yeah.